Everyone, and welcome to 16th century Joseon. We are here in Hyangdan, Hanok Village, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and we have had the privilege of staying at a 16th century nobleman's estate, Hyangdan, which is actually one of Korea's cultural treasures, number 412. And so we thought we would give you a tour of this historical location, talk about Korean architecture, answer your questions about Korean history, Korean clothing, whatever it is that interests you. But specifically, I thought people on my medieval history channel would be really interested in seeing how people actually lived in the early Joseon dynasty. So let's go ahead and start our tour. So Hyangdan was built in 1540. Good morning, Haas. Thank you for joining us. You did make it for the live.
Ayla, yeah, I caught one.
Ayla, you're here. Awesome. So Hyangdan was actually built in 1540, and it was actually a gift from King Jongjeong to his loyal court official, Yeon-dok. For his loyal service, the king allowed him to build this amazing mansion out here in the countryside, very far from the court in Hanyang, not for himself, but for his aging mother, because Yeon-dok was such a wonderful servant to the king that his mother must be an excellent woman, or must have been an excellent woman, for she raised him. And so this entire estate is a paeon. They can't see the estate, they can now, is a paeon to his mother. Now, her name, interestingly, is not mentioned anywhere in the historical documents discussing this establishment, at least none of the ones that we could find. And it turns out that women in most family records are not, when they marry into a family, their first names never get mentioned because their first names don't matter, or their given names don't matter. The only name that matters is their clan name. Charlie, welcome. So this is a very unique piece of architecture because most homes in this era were built with women's quarters and men's quarters and servants' quarters, all as separate buildings. But this one actually has them all contained in one piece, which means there's actually interior corridors, which is also very rare. What we're looking at right here is actually the sarangchae. And the sarangchae is the men's quarters. This is also the public facing part of the building, because in the Joseon dynasty, men and women sadly lived entirely separate lives. At least proper men and proper women did, but that just led to the creation of the gisang, an entire class of educated, cultured courtesans to actually entertain the men, who were forbidden from actually interacting and engaging with their own womenfolk. How fun is that? Anyway, the sarangchae is where the men lived, and it includes this public space here, which would have been used for entertaining guests. It would have been used for taking tea, for eating meals when the weather was suitable. Some people looked at this floor yesterday and said, oh, it would be great for dancing. It would, but no dancing. Dancing is very unlikely to have ever happened on this floor. Yes?
Is that a chair without legs?
It is, yeah, okay, so some Koreans, Korean floor seating is, normally is a thing, and I'm very good at floor sitting. Some people, however, are not good at sitting and supporting their back. So they have actually invented in Korea.
Want to show someone who's not good at floor seating?
He's not good at floor seating. In Korea, they have actually invented legless chairs so that you can sit on the floor and have back support. Yeah. The point of floor sitting is actually to maintain mobility and your ability to get off of the ground easily, and also to use your core to support your upper body, but whatever. Right. So this is actually a really elaborately done space. Up here you can see the joinery is intricately carved, and you can see, I don't know if they can see, there are lotus blossoms carved into the wood there. So this is the early Joseon dynasty, 16th century. Buddhism is still a pretty strong presence in people's lives. It becomes less so as time goes on, as Neo-Confucianism really kind of pushes it out of the official spaces. But the lotus blossom is a symbol of Buddhism because the lotus is a beautiful, beautiful flower that grows in the fetid conditions of a quagmire, right, of a marsh. And so it's a metaphor for the human soul, which is pure and beautiful despite the filth and corruption of the world. So, yeah. So this space actually has some really key architectural features. These irons are not decorative, nor are they for cooking. They are practical. That entire wall swings up, well, actually it folds open and then it swings up, and that gets supported on these irons, and you can open the windows on the inner room on the front and the sides and the back, and then it becomes a completely open space, so that in the summer when it's hot and humid, and it does get hot and humid here in Korea in the summer, then you have complete ventilation. But then in the winter when it's cold, you put everything back down, and that room and this room both have floor heating. Ondo. So Korea has had floor heating for as long as they've had it. Well, it's about the same time that the Romans invented floor heating, the people in Asia seem to have invented it as well. I don't know if it was parallel development or a transmitted technology.
One dude that went everywhere.
Right, there's one floor heating specialist who just went everywhere. But the difference is that in Western Europe, we mostly lost floor heating technology with a couple of very special exceptions. Spain is always the exception because of the Arab conquest of Spain. But in Korea, they never lost it. They've always had floor heating. So this is 16th century floor heating. And so the space here, this is not there's no floor heating here. It's just a wooden platform. So this kind of becomes a 3-season space, because with these doors back here, once again, you can close them to shut off, the movement of air. So you can sit here comfortably spring, summer, and autumn, right? Another interesting feature about the architecture of almost all traditional Korean homes is that the angle of the roof is extremely intentional. So you can see it actually has a pretty high peak. The eaves point up pretty high. And what that actually creates is a convection. So you have air constantly circulating, hot to cold, hot to cold. So it means that the temperature maintains a more regular temperature than if you've got a low ceiling, but it also keeps the moisture flowing, so that when it is humid here, as it is in the summer very often, then you don't have the buildup of moisture to then lead to the growth of mildew and black mold, right? So this is something that they'd already figured out how to address in a very low-tech, well, it's not low-tech, it's pretty high-tech actually, but it's a passive manner centuries ago here in Korea. Yes, questions?
Okay, so say hi to Bang Jong-yi.
Bang Jong-yi, welcome. Thank you.
I'm trying to say that you look sexy, but...
Oh, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Yes, I'm wearing my 18th century style hanbok today. Even though this is a 16th century home originally, the Yi family who built this back in 1540 still owns this property and still lives here. Our hostess, Nani, is a descendant of the original Yi who built this place, and she is a fantastic hostess.
Say hi to Sarah Farrow.
Sarah, lovely, welcome back. Good to see you again. Stan, thank you for joining us this morning. Susan, I see you made the live this morning.
Wimmalism.
I think we have to move on. Wimmalism?
And then there's the question that we're going to, how does the floor heating work?
Yes. Okay. Did we find the furnace for this one? I think it's in the kitchen, actually. Right. Right. So, yeah, so you see that little chimney there? This little chimney is the vent for the ondol system in these buildings, actually. So these are the servants' buildings. This is the servants' quarters, and we'll walk down that corridor since we're here. On the other end of this building is the furnace. And so the air is drawn through to the chimney, and so the hot air circulates through channels that are built under the floor all the way down through, and then it comes out there, the smoke and the air ventilating. So you can tell this floor doesn't have floor heating, this floor does. So the furnaces were generally charcoal fired, and many of them are still operating here. Nani? Yeah. 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 No, he's not wearing hanbok today.
Not today.
Yeah.
여기 앉아가 이렇게 앉아.
You want me to sit there? Oh, we're live. Okay, but we're YouTube live. Yeah. We'll be back. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah. She wanted to take more pictures. So these were the servants' quarters, right? And this was the stables. So the space was sort of multifunctional down here.
Sorry, Haas, I don't think we'll get in there.
No, we will not.
And yes, Ayla, she is lovely.
Yes.
Not you.
Yes.
Well, you are, but
Yes.
she as well. Okay, ask him, what is this?
Does
You know
anyone
this
does
time.
anyone know what this is?
They got some great old stuff in there.
Yeah, there are so many amazing things here. It really is remarkable.
Like, old
Yeah.
rice.
This I mean, this is so some of you have treasures in the attic. They've got treasures just everywhere. Items that generally live in museums are to be found here. By the way, if you're enjoying this very turbo tour of this historic estate, Hyangdan, don't forget to double tap that screen and consider subscribing.
You're right, Susan.
Yep.
It is a fish trap.
Yep, you are correct, Susan. It is indeed a fish trap. So this kitchen, this is the kitchens, actually. And this is what a 16th century kitchen looked like. So you actually you've got the stove underneath, the furnaces. You build fires there, and then these giant pots, and you can see the remnants of one there kind of sit in there in the hearth, and then you can cook soup or stew, heat up water, whatever it is you need. Right? They did have smaller grills for doing more specific things, especially for fire cooking as necessary. So this was not for that. This was specifically for anything that needed to be cooked in a pot. Then you'll see over here we have pots.
Kimchi pots, yes.
Yeah, well, fermentation pots. I don't know what's in all of them. Probably tenjang might be in some of them, or gochujang, or I think there might be schisandra berries. Actually, omija is there as well.
Contessa for size.
And then Contessa for scale. More pots.
An unusual feature.
Yeah, and up here we actually have a storage space. Apparently this was not used to just store ingredients for regular cooking, but also especially for storing things up for the big rituals and ceremonies that this house would have been expected to conduct, because in the back there is actually a shrine, in fact. So, yeah. Okay, so moving on. This is a turbo tour. So, yeah. So here we have the inner courtyard, and this is a very unusual feature because you usually don't have an inner courtyard like this, because this home was built as an ode to a very pious and very devoted and very modest, virtuous mother who raised an excellent son. And that son, her sons really deeply, deeply loved her. And so they built this place as one property, as one unit, with the ante, the inner rooms, which were the ladies' rooms, and the sarangte, all connected by corridors and this inner courtyard, because they wanted to be able to see their mother very easily without having to cross great distances. They wanted very close access to her so they could go and greet her in the morning and spend time with her at will and take care of her if she needed it. And she was aging. We did the calculations. We think she was about 65 when they built this for her. Right, and so here you have the sarangte, the men's quarters, and then here you have the mother suite, right? And the mother suite is built here so that she has a full view of the sky. The doors open up easily so she can sit there. She can open up the windows and doors in her own suite of chambers and see and talk to her son easily. And there is we're not going to show it to you because we've been asked not to show those rooms in case thieves are amongst the viewers here. Unfortunately, there have been thefts here at Hyangdan, which is a frickin' shame. And anyone who comes to a historical property like this and steals someone's belongings and antiques, there's a special circle in hell for people like that. Anyway, in her chamber, there is actually a balcony, a beautiful balcony, stretches along the entire length of that side of the building, with a beautiful floor, wooden floor area like this platform area where she can sit and enjoy the beauty of nature. Because here's the sad thing about women in the Joseon dynasty. Married women, proper women, women who weren't servants, right? Ladies of the house. They lived, once they got married, they almost never left their estate, and they almost never got to really go outside of their quarters. So that means that by building this property so that she could have a 4 seasons experience and not feel so bound in was a particular sign of her son's devotion to her. So yeah, it's also a telltale sign that this was an unusual setup and that this was a liberating style of architecture for women in the 16th century. So people ask me, why is it I would rather have been a giseng in the 16th century instead of a wife? That's one of the biggest reasons. Giseng were cultured and educated. They could play instruments, they could sing, they could read poetry, they were trained to read Chinese characters. They were allowed to travel freely. They could dress as they pleased, more or less. So what would you rather be, a giseng or a wife? Not a hard call. Yep. Okay, questions?
Wimmelism said that he had visited here about 6 years ago. That's cool.
You can now stay here through Airbnb. The hostess, Yi Nani, is an amazing, amazing woman. The hospitality is, it has no equal, right? So if you want an amazing experience in Korea, come to Hyangdan, stay here. You can book it through Airbnb. You will be treated like you've never been treated probably anywhere else in the world. It's really been an amazing, warm, welcoming experience.
She needs to leave by 10:20, right?
Yeah, yeah.
10:07.
That's why Okay, everyone. I know this was a quick tour. We've got to go because our hostess actually has an obligation and she must go. Therefore, we must also go. If you had any questions and we didn't answer them, pop them in the live chat. We did a much more thorough tour on my travels with the Creative Contessa yesterday. Also, we toured around Hyangdan village. If you want to see what the other estates in the village look like, that's on the Travels with the Creative Contessa. Otherwise, I'd like to thank my patrons and my channel members for supporting my work and my Facebook subscribers. Thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed, like and subscribe. Consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a channel member if you'd like access to lots of extra perks and information. Otherwise, until next time, everyone, may your historical explorations be creative. Okay.